And we are back with the fourth segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this fourth segment, we are going to be looking at Jayson Tatum and his comments about how he knew that he was going to win the NBA Finals last season. Now, the internet had a lot to say, according to this article, and I'm just going to go ahead and go over that. But before I do want to point out that the awards that I just mentioned previously in the last segment for the WNBA, that was all very, very true. And I found another website called Across the Timeline, and it shows all the award winners for each and every single category, and all the players that I just listed are on this list as well for the categories that they all listed. So definitely, so all of this is very, very true, and Caitlin Clark apparently made the AP All-WNBA first team, which is very, very surprising, and she was also on the WNBA rookie team as well. So little differences here and there, but the Defensive Player of the Year award was the same, I believe, and the Comeback Player of the Year award was actually for the Seattle Storm Skylar Diggins. So just a little bit of amendments over there. You can see all of the awards on Across the Timeline, and that was what I was reading was an article of someone in his own opinions, and legitimately opinions that I agreed on. So just clearing all of that up before I get into this next segment, talking about Jayson Tatum and his comments about the postseason. Now I have two articles lined up. So I'm going to look at the one where the headline is "The entire internet had tons of nasty jokes about Jayson Tatum after the Celtics superstar revealed when he knew his team would win the championship." So this article continues. In the 2024 NBA playoffs, the Boston Celtics, hold on just one second. The Boston Celtics won their 18th championship title. Faced off against the Mavericks, secured the win, finishing the series 4-1. Jaylen Brown stood out during the entire series and was named the Finals MVP. With the win, the Celtics hold the record for the most championships in NBA history. Interestingly, however, Jayson Tatum of the Celtics knew that they would win before the finals even began. Now, very surprising. At a recent event at the Maynard Fine Arts Theater, Tatum expressed confidence that the Celtics would win after the Denver Nuggets lost in the playoffs. So, this is a quote coming in from Jayson Tatum. "People always ask me, when did you guys know you were going to win the championship?" Tatum said, according to Gary Washburn of the Boston Globe, "When Minnesota beat Denver, I felt like Denver was the only team that they matched up best with us. I thought that we were going to play Denver in the finals, and it was going to be a good one." And those were the comments that Jayson Tatum said. So it seems like he did not have all that much faith in the Dallas Mavericks or Luka Doncic or Kyrie Irving actually beating them in the postseason. So they went into this postseason with extreme confidence, expecting a win. And I mean, they ended up doing it. So I can't really say much about that, but many saw the Nuggets as one of Boston's toughest rivals, as they had beaten the Celtics twice in the regular season. With Denver out of the playoffs, Jayson Tatum felt more confident about their chances. And a lot of fans had a lot of things to react about this. Many people have started to bash Jayson Tatum after his recent comments, with one person saying, "When Jimmy Butler got hurt in the play-in and when Wolves beat Denver should have been the answer." And I guess, that's a lot of Miami Heat fans just saying that, the Heat would have most likely beaten the Boston Celtics had they had a healthy Jayson Tatum. And TJ in the chat, he's saying, "Tatum is speaking facts. Jokic was the only real mismatch for the Celtics this season." And I really do not want to agree with him on that, but sadly, I do have to agree with him on that because, I mean, yes, I do think that there was a chance that Miami Heat would have made the series way more competitive had Jimmy Butler had been on the roster and had he had been healthy. And, of course, TJ is in the chat saying the Heat weren't going to do anything that year. And, again, we don't know. We don't expect the Miami Heat to do anything in any year, but all of a sudden they do. They're just the ultimate underdogs. Now, I do, again, It's a very, very big what if, because saying that the number 8 seed was going to beat the number 1 seed is ludicrous in any playoff series that you come across. And the reality is that we will never know just how good the Heat would have been against the Boston Celtics had they had Jimmy Butler. But they did, and they were able to win Game 1 without Jimmy Butler. They got gentlemen swept directly after that, so, that doesn't really matter in the slightest. I totally understand that. But again, we don't know. But to TJ's point, yes, the Nuggets were easily the most difficult matchup that the Celtics would have to worry about. Jamal Murray is one thing. Like, he will most likely get handled out on the perimeter with Jaylen Brown or whoever, or Drew Holiday or Derek White, or whichever perimeter defender decides to guard Jamal Murray at that point. Jamal Murray tends to only play well against the Lakers anyway, so we have no idea how much of a factor he would have been in. The biggest scare was Jokic. Obviously, the biggest scare when you go up against the Denver Nuggets is going to be Nikola Jokic. The MVP of the entire league, has been the MVP except for 1 year where he should have won the MVP that year, but ultimately ended up winning the championship. And again, Nikola Jokic, the matchup would have been deadly against the Boston Celtics, because not entirely sure how you feel about Kristaps directly coming off of an injury and then needing to play Jokic in the postseason. That is a lot to ask. And asking someone to guard Jokic is a lot to ask in of itself. Coming off of an injury, even more to ask. Not to mention Al Horford being the oldest player in the entire NBA, him coming off the bench, he would also have to match up against Jokic. And Jokic, that is barbecue chicken. You cannot tell me that Al Horford on Jokic isn't barbecue chicken. That is, what Shaq says, barbecue chicken alert. That is barbecue chicken. He is getting absolutely cooked on every single play. But aside from barbecue chicken, because that's honestly making me very hungry, the Celtics, they were just the better team. There was really no team aside from Denver that can actually and legitimately compete against them. I mean, the Dallas Mavericks, their threat is on the perimeter. They have a lot of perimeter defenders. Most teams that rely on perimeter play are going to have a problem when going up against the Boston Celtics because of just how good they are at guarding on ball and playing defense. Drew Holiday, Derek White, all defensive second teams, I believe. And Jaylen Brown, he wasn't picked for a defensive second team, but he's a great defender, not to mention the stuff that he brings on offense. Same thing with Tatum. Tatum's a rather versatile defender. Steve Kerr might not agree with you on that, but Steve Kerr is wrong. And most of the centers, they're very tall and they're very disruptive. Again, Jokic, I have a feeling that Jokic is just going to completely barbecue chicken Kristaps Porzingis. But again, he didn't really do that well against Rudy Gobert, Rudy Gobert is the defensive player of the year. So, there is a reason why he didn't really play all that well. But I was very shocked that they ended up blowing that game the way that they blew that game, and that they couldn't close out, because they were a team that was really known for closing out, and that was the big difference this year with the Celtics, that they were actually legitimately able to close out, and they were able to be a closeout team. So not really, honestly, voice crack of the century right there. Honestly, I'm very, very surprised. I don't think Tatum should have said this, obviously, because, you never know that you're definitely going to win. You never know that in the postseason. But I do agree with the statement of him saying that the Nuggets were easily the most difficult matchup that they had to worry about. I have no problems with that whatsoever. This is just the internet making fun of Jayson Tatum because Jayson Tatum is Jayson Tatum. That's essentially what this is. Jayson Tatum is going to get a lot of hate from a lot of different fans, whether it be Miami Heat fans, whether it be Laker fans, whether it be Kobe fans, anything like that. Jayson Tatum is going to get hate. So that's all that I really have for the fourth segment. Again, not really much to say on the comments. Let me know in the comments what you think of what he had to say. Because me personally, I agree with it. I agree with most of it. So now we're going to go ahead and go into the fifth segment. This is going to be a much shorter fifth segment than usual because 1, I'm rather hungry. 2, we are running out of time. And 3, this is going to be about a jersey retirement. Yes, Vince Carter, half man, half amazing. He is going to get his jersey retired by not one, two franchises. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the fifth segment real quick, right after this short break.